Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are doing another book review. Now today we are going to be reviewing Grimspace by Aguirre, and this is published by Ace Books, sorry about that. And the genre here is science fiction. I'm not really sure what type of science fiction, like it's not military sci-fi, it's not really, what's that other one, cyberpunk, or, anything like that. This is very much like, this is like the equivalent of YA or adult paranormal romance / urban fantasy, but in space. Whatever genre that is supposed to be, that's what this is. And it's fine. It's good. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I didn't think it was like the most amazing thing. But yeah, and the premise here is that Jax, this woman right here, is a Grimspace jumper, and she's able to use this thing in her genetics called the J gene, which only women have, to plug into the mainframe of the of the spaceship and drop it into this like other dimension through which they can travel really quickly and then jump it out into the correct area. I thought that was really cool, but yeah, and she's been framed for an accident that was, caused, or that happened, and she's been framed for it, and now she is being recruited to join this group that wants to break the jumper monopoly that this corporation has, that she used to work for, and that is being framing her for the accident, right? And the whole kind of book deals around the fact that she doesn't know what she wants. Is she going to be part of it? Does she not want to do it? Like, it's a very, like, back and forth, like, should I, shouldn't I kind of thing. And I thought it was enjoyable in general, but it wasn't, like, the best thing. And I'm starting to think that it's because maybe I'm not the target audience for it. Like I said, this is very much, like, paranormal romance / urban fantasy, like, the type that's geared towards women, but in space, and that's okay. The writing is kind of YA-ish, like it feels very like I don't know what to call it or how to say it without sounding like I don't like offensive, I guess, but it's very much in line with that sort of like, I'm a badass woman, I don't need a man, and then she finds a guy, and then the whole story just deals with her dealing with like, oh my god, I love this guy, which is, one of the reasons why I actually stopped reading YA fantasy of like 5 years ago. Because I really didn't like that, all of these characters were made out to be these awesome independent people. And the first thing that the story focused on was, oh my god, she found a guy. And this guy is like gorgeous and brooding and like angry, and he's a bad guy, but he's actually a good guy. And then like, oh my god, do I love him? Do I not love him? And then they add more characters that are like the same. Yeah, I just didn't like that. And this feels very similar to that. And in general, I thought it was fun. I mean, it was an interesting kind of break from what I usually read. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't amazing. And that kind of like hurt the enjoyment of the story. And I just think it's just because I'm not the right demographic for this, which is totally fair. Like, I'm not going to complain about it too much, because, it wasn't written for me. So whatever, I guess. But I am still going to review it because other guys might want to read this, and if they don't know, they're going to hate the book. So there you go. Now, the plotline here is not bad. It's actually quite enjoyable. But for a sci-fi story, it doesn't actually have that much in-space sci-fi action stuff. Like, it doesn't have dogfights. It doesn't have high-speed intergalactic chases. Well, it has like half of one. It doesn't have these crazy, like, awesome explorations about these new worlds and dealing with new cultures or anything like that. Basically, it's not Star Wars, it's not Star Trek, or Avatar. It's none of those. This is much more like a race against time, figure out the mystery before they kill you kind of story. And I thought that was really cool. And it's nice that it happens in a sci-fi setting, but again, it's very much like, this could have just been urban fantasy just as easily, and it would have made no difference to the story. So, there you go. The action in general is pretty, actually, it's not minimal. There's a lot of action, but it's all ground-based. It's all fight-based. It's about, punching the guy harder than he can punch you, or kind of like, oh my god, these guys are chasing you, you gotta run, or you gotta escape, or in some way, you know, have them drop their pursuit of you. And I wasn't all for it. I thought it was really good, but it wasn't like amazing, you know, it was just kind of like mid-tier. The key points here are basically the prison break, and then the first planet that they go to, where there's like this political thing that they're trying to recruit her, but then this other group of people also want to recruit her, and there's a shootout that then turns into a chase. Like monsters are chasing them and they have to run, and it's a race against time to get to the base before the monsters get them, which was pretty cool. Kind of felt like Jurassic Park almost, but I thought that was cool. And then after that, there's a quest for aliens. And then we stop at a space station where there's pirates. And there's this guy that's named Han instead of Han. And he's like a space pirate, but he's basically like the Adonis of Jack Sparrow. Like if Jack Sparrow was an Adonis, he would be that guy. And I actually liked him. He was a very interesting character. But I'm not really sure if he was a person or an alien. Or like a human or an alien, not a person. Aliens are people too, I guess. I thought it was really interesting, but the specific plot point that happened there wasn't that great. And like there was a character death or two character deaths in that point that were just like glossed over, or like that didn't matter afterwards. And I was just like, what the hell? These are like important people and you just killed them and no one gave a crap about it, like after the scene ended. So I was like, I don't know, man. That's where it started to lose me a little bit. And then there's a lot of relationship stuff, which was okay, but I really didn't like the main character and the main side character that she was in a relationship with, just because like their relationship is like two horrible people being codependent about being horrible, and kind of like, oh my god, we love each other, but like one of you is a genocidal guy and the other one of you is like a horrible pawn of a capitalist society. And it was just kind of like, you know, it wasn't great. It was very much like YA, like bad girl from a good, like bad girl meets brooding guy, and then it's like, oh my god, we love each other. I just didn't like that. But, you know, the interest that built up with them was pretty interesting. There's a lot of tension between them as characters that then gets resolved in like smutty scenes later, but overall, I just didn't like the characters that were in the relationship that much. And then some bounty hunting stuff. And overall, it was an enjoyable story, but it wasn't the greatest thing I've ever read. It's very much like a blockbuster movie that isn't that great. That is kind of like a B-rated movie that just kind of like got really popular for some reason, and you went to watch it, and it was like, turn your brain off for 2 hours, enjoy the movie, you know, drink some popcorn, chug some soda, and then like leave and forget about it. That's very much what this felt like. And I actually do want to read more of this just because it's a fun, enjoyable, kind of like mid-level, easy to read kind of story. But it's not like the greatest thing ever, if that makes sense. Characters wise, look, I didn't really like any of the characters, and this was really the weakest point, because there was like one or two side characters that I found more interesting than any of the people on the main cast. And I would say the main cast is everyone that's on the ship. So that's Jax, the main character, March, the main male character, Dina, who is basically the token lesbian. Like, her literally she's sarcastic and she's lesbian. That's her only two character traits. There's nothing else about her that's important or interesting or anything like that. Oh, and she's the mechanic. But she doesn't ever do anything to show that she's a mechanic or that she's important or that she is knowledgeable about what she's doing. It's all like, oh, hi, I'm a lesbian. Or like, oh, hi, I hate Jax and I'm going to be really sarcastic to her. It was really boring. And then there's Doc, which is the medic. He's also more like a scientist than a doctor. But he was kind of okay. And then Loras, which is very much the weird culture alien that looks like a person that no one understands, but like they have to deal with. And I don't know. It was, none of the characters were great. Jax is interesting, and she really starts off as a really cool, badass main character. You know, I really enjoyed her, but I felt that she was way too obsessed with the fact that she was like good at sex. I didn't know why that was like an important character trait that Aguirre was like really trying to shove in your head. And I think this comes from the fact that it's like urban fantasy in space, or like paranormal romance in space. It just kind of like all of her writing for that kind of just stuck with this one. And I was kind of bored of it because it was literally like every other sentence. Anytime she remembered the guy that died in the accident, anytime that she talked about March, anytime that she was introducing herself to anyone, it was like, "Hi, I'm Jax. I'm a jumper, and I'm good at hitting the like in the sack." Like that's literally all she talked about, and I was really bored of it. And March is like the brooding bad boy that's like has a heart of gold, and that's just such a boring character archetype to me. It's so annoying, and this is like the characters is where I really understand that, hey, this was probably not written for my, age range or my gender or like whatever, like my preferences. My demographic just does not align with this book, but I still enjoyed it, so I'm going to read more of it eventually. But this is definitely not a book that I'm going to buy full price or brand new. Like, this is not a book that I'm going to go out of my way either on Amazon or at my local store to buy. This is only like in the I'm gonna buy it when I find it at my local used bookstore list. This is not I'm not raving about this or running to buy the next volume. But yeah, YA style characters. That's all I can think of. That's like how it summarizes all of them. Not bad, not great, not something I love. So yeah, there we go. That's the most middle of the road explanation I can give you. Now, world building wise is probably the best part. I really enjoyed the whole Grimspace thing because the way it was described was actually really amazing. It's basically like this thing. Think of it like Star Wars, like a hyperspace, but full of color and motion and these things that you could never truly comprehend and that look beautiful to you and that you want to get sucked into and like live in and like experience. And it's like an addictive drug, and it's very, very interesting. Like, I thought that was the most compelling bit of writing that Aguirre did in this whole book. And sadly, it was barely explored. But when it was explored and when it was mentioned, it was very, very interesting. I also thought that it was cool that it was only women could access it, and only women that had the J gene. But it felt a little bit like, why only women? Like, it just felt like, oh no, how do we make it special? We only give it to half of the population. Okay, but like, you could have done it any other way. But I mean, I'm not going to complain about it too much because, again, this is not my demographic. If this was written by a guy for guys, it would have probably been only guys are able to do this. Okay, fine, whatever. But it was okay. And the alien worlds that they went to and the cultures and stuff that they explored were pretty interesting. But again, there was minimal exploration and minimal new worlds that they went to. It was all kind of like, hey, we're going to do something here for a little bit, so I got to explain a little bit of what this place is so you know, and so it means something, and then we're going to move on to the next thing, and then, oh my god, March and Jax love each other. Oh, and Dina's gay. That's the whole thing. Like, half of the time, that was what was happening. So, yeah. The smutty things, or the fan service, which is what I usually refer to it as, was not bad, but it was a little, like I said, Jax was a little obsessed with the fact that she's really good at like having sex, and I was just like, why do you have to say that every time? Like, I just thought it was really weird that she was like over, like she just mentioned it as often as she possibly could, or like in her mind, and so like the reader would always see it, and it's just like, dude, what, why? So yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. The tension between the main character and March was pretty good. It was not enjoyable to read because I didn't like them, but like, it was viable, and you could definitely understand that there was something going on between them. And once to kind of hit that high point where it's like, okay, we have to have the scene now because otherwise we're like cucking you too much. It was okay. It was fine. It wasn't the best, and I really didn't like that she used the word delicious to explain to kind of like explain emotions or like enjoyment of like some of the stuff that was happening, and it was like one of those weird words that you just don't want to associate with certain things. I don't know. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I mean, enjoyable. But yeah, so that's it for the review. My rating of this book is a solid 3 out of 5. It was definitely better than average, but it wasn't amazing or even that good in any sense of the word. To me, this is a very middle of the road, slightly better than average book, and something that you can just enjoy when you're tired of reading your usual fantasy or science fiction and you just want something slightly different. And I'm coming at this from the angle of like a guy that mostly reads manga, light novels, or when I read Western novels, which is actually quite more often than manga or light novels, that reads epic fantasy and space opera science fiction and military science fiction as well. So this is like a departure from those, but still within the same genre or like style that is with a slightly different perspective that is kind of enjoyable and kind of a palate cleanser. But you're also going to get a little bit tilted reading it because it's kind of annoying for you, assuming you're also a guy that reads, the same stuff as I do. So, watch out for that, but this is not a bad book. Similar titles to this, I don't know, like I male-oriented stuff, maybe something in the harem lit genre that is like space related, maybe something like Michael Scott Earl's what's it called, Star Justice. Actually, that one might be better than this because it has a lot of the similar like ideas and stuff, but in a slightly more interesting way to me. So, something like Michael Scott Earl's Star Justice, or other things by Aguirre. Like I have what's that one called, Perdition, which is in the same universe but is not the same storyline. But I don't know, I have that one, but I haven't read it, so I don't know if I can recommend it. But stuff in that vein would be pretty good if you enjoy this story. So yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If this was overtly negative and you are a fan of this book, sorry. I just think it wasn't really for me. But that wasn't going to stop me from making a review for it because there's other people that like me that could benefit from this review. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.